Welcome to Quest of Friendship Unit. My name's Chris. I am here with Brian,
What's going on?
Jake,
Hey guys.
and Jeremy.
What's up?
Risk of Rain Anniversary Update has been out for a little while now, so naturally it is tier list time. We are going to be doing our character tier list for Risk of Rain 2 after the Anniversary Update. This is a all-encompassing tier list, so this works for single player, multiplayer, beating the final boss, obliterating. This is an all-encompassing tier list, so it's not like super specific solo Mythrix only tier list. That's just something to keep in mind. And yeah, before we get started, if you like the video, throw us a like. Check out the timestamps if you want to hop around the tiers. And if you love us, please sub us. So right off the bat, I think we should start with the new character. That would be Bandit. And we, as a group, decided to put him at mid-tier, which I think we could have some discussion for. I think Brian wanted to make him high, actually.
Yeah, I mean, like right out of the his skills are really strong right out of the gate.
Yes.
Like you get a bleed, you get a crit basically for free, and like you have to know how to do it, but it's not really super hard to figure out.
Yeah.
To like kind of flub along, But like if you want to be good, like the skill ceiling is really high, and the skill floor is moderately high.
Right. And for me, his what's it called? His health is just too low for him to go higher. He's just way too vulnerable, especially early on, especially for solo. I mean, Jake and I die all the time on level 1 with him when we play solo.
Yeah, but in a group, like he's considerable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think his difficulty is why he's mid. I think he has the potential to be one of the higher tier characters because, like, crit anytime you get someone from behind is pretty overpowered. But he is very hard to play because you need to be pretty close to people, which makes him very vulnerable. And he has, I believe, the lowest health of any character in the game, making him even more vulnerable. So he's kind of very difficult to play, but has high damage output.
And I think in conjunction with having, not a ton of health, he's also not very fast. So for a character that kind of relies on being able to sneak behind someone, shoot them in the back of the head, and then run away before taking damage, that's a delicate dance.
Yeah, he can be fast when he's invisible, but his base
he doesn't have like a
bad.
teleport though.
Yeah, it's not like fucking
he doesn't have a dash.
You can just zoom out of the way.
You should be able to stab people more than once in every 30 seconds. The M2 there, which is supposed to be like you're stabbing someone, like you could do that more than once every 30 seconds.
Yeah.
I think Brian brings up the good point that there's a few items that make him really good and they're not hard to get. Backup mag gives you more slashes. Purity makes all your cooldowns pretty much instantaneous. And then, I think Hardlight Afterburner makes everyone good, but especially Bandit.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah. And I guess I will say in terms of Bandit, something that I enjoy just playing him as, his vertical and horizontal movement in the air is really good, like uniquely good. There's not a lot of characters, like Mercenary is pretty much the only other one that comes to mind, where you essentially get 2 to 3 to 4 jumps depending on how you do it. If you can jump, you can go invisible, which pops you up a little. If you're in the air long enough, you'll get another pop when you stop being invisible, and then your right click, your M2, that slash gives you another little pop. So you can move really far in the air if you know what you're doing, and that's actually fun to do too. But yeah,
he's basically like Mercenary with guns,
right?
But I think that the little soft skill stuff really puts him over.
Yeah, I think he's definitely high. He's definitely high mid tier.
High mid.
Yeah. Well, we'll get back to mid tier. But let's start at the very bottom now. And there's only one lowly character in low tier, and that is our good friend Commando, who we actually were just talking about how you never even have to play with him ever now that they made the Huntress a default character when you start the game. So Yeah, jack of all trades, master of none, Commando.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You're coming in with a pistol and there's people shooting fireballs and fucking poison and all that shit. That's not a good move.
I will say Commando, he's not great, but he is, in my opinion, pretty fun to play as. His attacks aren't super flashy, but the way that he moves around at his dash is pretty fun, particularly for a new player. So I don't really consider him to be like an unfun character. I'm glad he's in the game. He serves a role. He's just, once you are familiar with the mechanics, he doesn't offer very much.
Yeah, I think the sad thing with him is, unfortunately, even the unlock skills don't make him that much better. He's still pretty trash tier, even with the unlockable skills, which was a good opportunity to like add in some spice, because those are not easy to get.
yeah. For me, his health is actually pretty low. He doesn't do nearly enough damage. The only saving grace for him, for his attack, he doesn't have like a particularly good AoE attack or group damage attack. He doesn't have a lot going for him, but he is kind of quick. So I guess that's the one saving grace. But yeah, bottom tier, pretty much unanimous. I believe that was actually unanimous. But that's all we have for low tier. So moving into mid tier, the first character is Artificer, Artificer's interesting. There are some people think Artificer's top tier. You have to be too accurate. I was playing Artificer earlier today, and I keep coming back to that. Artificer has too many cooldowns, and that everything is a cooldown. You can't really augment that. Like, you can't. Attack speed doesn't matter, and all of the attacks are hard to land, either because you have to be close, or because they're hard to aim, or because they move too slow. And you physically have to hit them. And that is just too hard to consistently do, even if they are strong attacks.
Or just to that point about hard to land, you can't even really effectively use the ice attack on airborne enemies, and that's her best attack.
Yep. Ice is
Although
really good
the
for Mithrix.
Yeah, that's a like
Flip side.
it's huge for Mithrix,
Yeah.
and like the jetpack is a good thing right out of the gate, but yeah.
Jetpack is sick, but in my opinion does not make up for the absolutely horrible movement speed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she, like, undoubtedly is in probably the top 3 for highest damage in the game, but she is so hard to survive, especially solo.
Yeah. Yeah, mid tier. But yeah, I think we've already touched on it. Like the damage output possibility and the jetpack and stuff that does, and the ice ability on Mithrix definitely does not make Artificer low tier. But next we have Mercenary, who is first melee character that we're going to be talking about. We can talk about this as we go through the rest of characters. For me, in general, the trend on the melee characters is it's not that the game is jank, but it's very easy to get too close to a crowd of enemies and just instantly die. And I think that's really the biggest thing holding melee characters back for me. Also, the final boss does not play well with melee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the thing where because you can't get close to a big crowd of enemies, and like spoiler alert, all the top ones are kind of range folks. But like you get in too close, and it doesn't matter what attack it is. If it's 20 of them all doing it once, and that's what spawns on the last level every single time, you're gonna die. There's no two ways about it.
Yeah.
Like Jake had that happen. You had that happen the other night. You lost like 3,000 health in one hit.
Yes. Yeah, because I got knocked up and down by a magma worm, and it killed me instantly.
Yeah, and there's stuff like that. I mean, once we get to loader, we can talk about that too. Like where it's inconsistent when you can and can't go through enemies, and then they start tossing you around. The risk, no pun intended, is just too high for melee characters.
Yeah, and I think Mercenary is one of the only still viable melee characters because he's got all of his iframes and decent crowd control, so you can do pretty well on your own or in a group, but it does take a lot of focus, a decent amount of skill to play him. And he honestly he does not do as much damage as he used to. He's been slowly falling on the tier list for the past handful of updates, so he's definitely mid tier for sure.
Yep. And next we have Jeremy's old main, Loader, who we are also putting in mid tier.
He's beautiful.
And you actually put him in mid tier, which kind of surprised me.
Well, I think the thing about Loader is that, so we already touched on, like, melee characters are not particularly useful when it comes to Mithrix, and I think Loader in particular is bad because he has no ranged moves at all, and Mithrix can chew through your overshield pretty fast. I think until Mithrix, Loader's a pretty decent choice. He's not putting out a huge amount of damage, but just by sitting on top of a boss and just hitting them, your overshield keeps you basically invulnerable almost all the time, and you can play him solo or multiplayer that way. So just like, he's very survivable. The damage is okay. He's pretty quick, can jump around well, useless on Mithrix, but just the damage is not that impressive at the end of the day.
Yeah. I mean, he hits hard with his single hits, but...
Yeah, but you can't really chain those up because the whole way that they deliver a lot of damage is by being from far away and at a high speed, where you're just going to be, if you're just going to sit there and attack, like, it's just not that impressive.
Right. But yeah, go ahead.
I hate the nerf to his punch. You used to be able to, like, get to Sonic speed pretty much instantly with zero effort, and that was the best part about the character, was just flying around the map using your grappling hook and your punch. And now I think the punch is like automatically goes as soon as you use the ability. You can't charge up nearly as much. It's just, he's not fun anymore, unfortunately.
Oof. Well, next up we have Acrid, which I think Acrid used to be top tier, and I think we all still agree that Acrid probably has the highest damage potential of any character in the game, and is super versatile in that you can do a lot of crowd control and a lot of damage, but still not great for Mithrix, and still not great in terms of just like the whole melee situation in the meta right now. I don't know if you agree or disagree, Brian, as the old Acrid main.
No, I totally, like, he's got the same problems as all the other melee characters, where you can't really get into a group of enemies without getting one hit. Like, I've been thinking about this as we've been talking about these other characters. I've been thinking about how I play Acrid, and it's mainly as a range character. And then occasionally you go in for, like, 1 or 2 furious hits of, like, left clicking and hitting shift to poison as many people as you can and then get out. Like, the only reason that he has the damage potential that he has is because he has the ranged attacks, and the ranged attacks are pretty good. My opinion of the Blight has diminished. I will say that. I think that the regular poison may be a better way to go, because you can deal with you can kind of deal with more people better, or more enemies better. I should stop saying people. The Blight is really dependent on hitting the same enemy multiple times, and if you have something that like Acrid is a character that really improves with items. If you get a good item stack, like especially the bleed, it can be really destructive. The burn is kind of good too, the Hellfire Tincture, but he's got health problems. Like, he's not so good on being able to tank hits right out of the gate. You really need to have some items to get him up there. And he's useless for Mithrix because you can't get in close, and he really needs to get in close.
He also, to your point on the health thing, he doesn't have what Loader has, which is the overshield, and he doesn't have what Mercenary has, which is the invincibility frames. So he really is the most vulnerable melee character.
Yeah, you gotta get in and get out. You can't hang around. And
he probably
his left click is like, I hardly ever use it, and it's one of his kind of better abilities.
Yeah.
His last buff was to his left click, which I don't understand why, because no one uses that. I would put him at probably like the bottom of the mid tier, because after round like 5, you pretty much can't do anything. You're gonna get one shot by any elite character because you have no protection at all. So, unfortunately, he's just not survivable enough.
And again, I would say maybe struggles a little bit with airborne enemies because of the range deficit a little bit there.
Yep. All right. Well, that takes care of our mid tier, which is by far the biggest number of characters, our largest tier pool. Next, we're moving up into high tier. And for high tier, I think we should start off with Huntress, which at one point was like, I was convinced was the absolute best in the game. Maybe for the current meta and the current situation in the game, Huntress was. But now, I think she is okay. I think she's my most played character. And she, to me, just is at this point struggling in the health department. It's way too easy to get one shot. I think she's still great with damage. I think she has great skills that you can unlock. I think she's great movement, great pretty much everything except for getting one shot, which happens a lot once you start getting into rounds that matter.
Yeah.
Her AoE's great. She doesn't have any crowd control, which is unfortunate, but like you don't need it. You're super fast. You can teleport.
She kind of has crowd. Like the rain of arrows, if you're using that skill, is okay if you can pair it with either Rex or with a cube or whatever. And then her the glade thing that she throws, the frisbee, also can kill a ton of enemies.
Yeah, the AoE damage is so good as her, but she doesn't have any stuns or anything like that.
Right, yeah.
But like I said, you don't need it. And all of the skills you unlock on her are like, they're great.
Yeah.
They change her quite a bit.
Except the micro dash, that sucks ass. But
yeah.
But yeah, then you get one shot. It's all fun and games. Then you get one shot. It's all over. So
pretty much.
Next, I think it's a tried and true. I think we'll all agree. Engineer is high tier, especially with those walking turrets, right, Brian?
Well, I mean, do you like healing? Because like, not for nothing, but if you're playing in team games, the fact that your turrets stay still with the bustling fungus, it's huge.
Yeah.
And it can save your team from being killed. So, like, I don't know, the walking turrets, they walk all over the place. They walk off cliffs, they walk kind of wherever they want. Are they affected by the new like
AI? No, they don't snap to you. They don't snap to you. Luckily.
Yeah, luckily.
They have their own set of issues.
And like if you get the right item stack on those, even on the stationary turrets, you can do really hefty damage. I'm not really about those walking turrets. The AI is kind of dumb.
I think that engineer has always hovered in like the high to kind of top of the mid tier range because the turrets can be so unreliable. But with the recent updates, healing's become very important, which makes his stationary turrets very good. And movement speed has become imperative because a lot of the courses require being able to jump around and like actually jump from like island to island, especially the last Mithrix level. So you have to build movement speed anyways, and the movement speed actually makes the walking turrets very, very good because the faster they move, they like cannot get hit by anything. So they become practically indestructible. So I think he's kind of solidified himself in the high tier just because of where the quote-unquote meta of the game is now.
The shield is also a fairly great shift. Like, there are a good number of characters that have pretty lousy shifts, and the shield is a strong one solo or multiplayer.
And it got buffed in the fact that like the bells, the brass contraptions, like those spikes maintain momentum in the earlier patches. So you could basically die if you were standing in the shield. Well, Brian and I learned the hard way. Make sure Mithrix doesn't have oh god, what's it called?
Shattering
Brilliant
Behemoth, yeah, or it will penetrate the shield. But Yeah, the shield basically has been buffed, but I think he's just a good all round character because of his skill. Like, if you want to do walking turrets or moving or stationary turrets, you can choose to have the healing or you can choose to have the damage. If you want, you can choose to have the shield or you can choose to use the missiles. I think he's good for solo. I think he's good for group. I think he's just like one of the most well-rounded characters. So yeah, I think he's high tier.
And he's big time casual.
Yeah,
I was just going to say the same thing.
Easy
He's one
mode.
of the easiest characters to play.
Easy mode.
Yeah, he's so much fun.
Especially compared to the other real characters, or at least one of the characters in the very top tier.
Yeah.
Although if you get behind in items and your turrets go down, you're all done.
Yeah,
like
true.
that grenade thing is not going to help you. So
Yeah, the grenade move sucks.
Oh yeah, yeah. The grenade move and I guess his primary
Mind
attack
blowing.
without the turrets probably what keeps him in high tier.
Yeah.
All right, so yeah, that's engineer. Next is oh Captain, my Captain. Captain, we put at high tier as well. I think he holds a lot of the same attributes as engineer, right? He's good for assisting groups. He's good for assisting yourself. He's the only character with built-in healing for the group at the start, with Rex being the only other one who has any healing at all. He's a good all-rounder, but he's not perfect by any means.
He's slow.
Also, yeah, and his red item though is very, very good.
It's very good.
Mm.
He does lose his utilities in the null area, and there's one when you're trying to fight the gold golem, he loses it there, which that actually really bothers me. I think especially for solo, he would be very hard to do the null portal with. All right, so now we are ready for top tier. There's 2 characters in the top tier. The first one we will start with is Multi. And, I'll just say, I think Multi really kind of started to shine during Mithrix. Once Mithrix became the end game for, or at least one of the end games, he became basically the best way to beat Mithrix, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Just like it's a big value added for him. Yeah, and whereas Mithrix, like for a character like Loader, in my opinion, really diminished their playability. For Multi, really kind of propped it up.
Yeah, he's like the only character, or one of very few. He's pretty much the only one who can comfortably not get one shot by some of Mithric's strongest attacks, which is very good if you're learning how to beat him. He also has an attack that can literally shoot with unlimited range. He also can move pretty quick with his shift. So yeah, he's really good. He doesn't have any really big downsides, in my personal opinion, that I can think of.
He's
The
also.
robot-
Go ahead, Brian.
Oh,
Multi.
Yeah, the robot. Get bleed. That's the advice that I have. Do you want to stack 200 bleed? Like, get like 5 or 6 of those, and you'll be doing fine. And like
Yeah.
the double equipment thing, if you guys haven't brought that up already, is pretty huge.
His nail gun scales really well because it shoots so rapidly that like any items like bleed just does so much damage because you stack those on-tick effects so quickly. But the other nice thing is he's just so easy and straightforward to play. Like it's pretty clear, like you need a little bit of movement speed and you need crit, and that's all you need, and you just go forward. That's all you do.
But you can tank it until you get the movement speed.
Right.
Like you can make it until you get the items.
Yeah, he's definitely the tankiest character, while also not being the slowest if you take the shift into account. So he's really good, for sure.
There's really no one type of enemy that fucks him over either. Like again, some of these characters in lower tiers struggle with a group of enemies or with airborne enemies. He can kind of handle whatever. He can, screw off if he needs to. He can take things out of the sky. He's versatile.
Yeah.
And then the knockback on the railgun is really useful with the wisps when you get elite ones, because you can just shoot them and they go flying away and you deal with them later.
Hmm.
And there you go. Like he's he's almost kind of OP. I hate to say it, but
Yeah. He
know?
definitely doesn't need, like, the 2 equipments. He would be fine with just one still. He'd still be really good.
Yeah, with just one equipment, he might still be in the top tier.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to figure out how the switching would work, because, like, if you took away either one of the gun attacks, he would be mid-tier.
No, he does need both, yeah.
Yeah, he definitely needs that. Yeah, that is part of the tool belt that makes him able to handle any type of enemy at any range, including Mithrix.
Because, like, whatever the scrap launcher thing is, I forget which one that replaces, but it's
you get to pick.
Oh, you do get to pick.
Yeah.
It's still no good. I mean,
yeah.
Better off just keeping the ones you get out of the gate.
Not a great skill. All right, well, so our last top tier is Rex, and this one is interesting because pretty much Jake and I are the only ones who play Rex often. I mean, right? We've already mentioned that Rex is the only character with built-in healing guaranteed. Even Captain, you could choose not to go in with it, and he can just do an insane amount of damage. He can pin down enemies, including Mithrix. Between his damage output, his built-in healing, and kind of everything, like, in a weird way, his little dash thing is actually useful if you get to know it. It's annoying to use, but you can stun enemies with it, you can push them off the edge, you can use it as an extra jump. It's very versatile. He's very versatile character, and I think his base kit is the most useful base kit, or tied with multi in the game, where, like, if you don't have any items, you still have all of the boxes checked. Like, you could tank some damage, you can heal yourself, you can move, you have, like, vertical and horizontal movement, and you can do a shitload of damage. So for me, that's why he stays at top tier, even though he hurts himself.
Yeah. And once you know how to play him, which I don't think takes too long, but we have been playing him for a long time, so I may be a little biased in that, but he just does so much damage. And especially in a group setting, he is very useful because he can group up enemies like none of the other characters in the game.
Yeah.
I would say really the only big knock on him is that he's not the easiest character to learn. He's not insanely difficult to learn, but to become so proficient that you're really starting to bring the damage meter up, it's harder, let's just say, than Malti, who is maybe comparably good. And then the shift is, it can be effective, it can be useful, but I think it would be a stretch to call it good, which is evidenced by the fact that I think both of you pretty typically get rid of it.
Yeah, well, I think that's just because the shift replacement, Strides of Heresy, is like a match made in heaven for Rex, because it heals you 25% of your health, which is great. But I think
you don't typically replace the shift on other characters with that item. So, like, clearly it's not better than every other shift. It is well suited to him.
I think the shift for Rex is the hardest to learn move in the entire game. But it's like a Swiss Army knife. It's not good at anything, but you can use it to do a lot of stuff in a pinch. Like, you can use it to get that little extra height if you need to. You can use it to push that enemy and give them a stun if you need to. But yeah, a lot of the times it's annoying as hell. And
that was also our rationale for Commando being the worst in the game, was that he can do everything, just he sucks at everything. So, like, or at least he's not particularly good at everything.
Right, this is just that one move.
He can dodge, he can shoot. Exactly. Well, that's what I'm saying. This one move is not great.
Right, yeah. Right. All right. I think that is our entire tier list, except, spoiler alert, the secret character. If you don't want to know who that is, then I guess stop watching. But we do have one more tier for the heretic, who we agree is banned in competitive. He's absolutely just broken. And he should be, and we can talk about that, but, like, he is just absolutely unbelievably broken in pretty much every way, from, like, health to damage to movement to everything. Even though they make you lose health every second, you hardly even notice. So yeah, what do we think about the crow, the burb?
If you want to be a bird, better try a little flying.
Yep. His bird moves are really good.
I mean, I soloed the first time I played him, I beat Mithrix in a 4-player game on my own. Like, that's just how good he is. Jake described beating Mithrix as barely having to try, so...
Yeah. I mean, like you said, Heretic is broken, but rightfully so. He is not easy to get, even when you know how to get him. And when you're trying to get him, I guess since if you're still watching, you want to know how to get him, you have to get all of the Heretic lunar items. And from what we've found, we've gotten him a couple times. It's best to try and like get all of them at once. The piecemeal thing kind of like makes it pretty hard to do any damage as a character. So it's an all or nothing kind of thing. But once you get it, it's sweet.
Yeah. And I mean, his health is just absolutely stupid. His movement is stupid. He has 3 jumps. All of his attacks just are insane in the amount of damage that they can do. He's just broken. There's no other way around it.
He's got wings.
The chances that you're gonna get him in solo, like, what do you think that is?
Well, you have to. That's the thing. Why I don't even think he's a separate discussion, right? Because you wouldn't
Easter egg, really. I mean, like,
yeah, but you wouldn't be able to play him consistently because you'd have to get him every time.
Well, you'd certainly not be able to play him if it was competitive. I mean, you've already established that.
Yeah, but like you can't drain looter coins at a rate that you'd be able to reliably get him as often as you want. You know, he's like a treat.
Because what was the price for you guys?
I mean, I fucked up. I was not paying attention, so it cost me 75 lunar coins. But
Yeah, all said and done for me, it was probably 30 to 40.
yeah.
So you got to have some time under your belt as it is.
Yeah,
It's
But-
a treat.
So,
he's worth playing. Everyone gets Little a Heretic as a treat.
As a treat.
All right, then I think that's our tier list. The tier lists are getting longer to make each time, but that's because there's more characters and more to talk about. So, for future tier lists, Brian, what should our heretics be doing right about now?
they should be sitting tight and waiting for the future to become the present. But, you know, what do you think of our tier list? You can hammer your thoughts on that down in the word box there. I'm sure there'll be some contentious opinions. And, you know, we do occasionally give away things on this channel, but you gotta be subscribed to get said things. So, like Chris said at the beginning of the video, what, love us if you sub us if you love us. There we go. And so go ahead and throw us a sub if you watch this far, because you know we probably liked it. And smoke them if you got them, guys. That's all for me tonight, Chris.
All right, thank you, Brian. We will catch you guys next time.